Welcome to Uxbridge Scugog Life. I'm your host, Jackie Hermans. Today's show is filled with passion, creativity, and books. I have the delight of interviewing two local authors. So we have Dan Miwa, who has written a bestseller. It is a sci-fi novel called Rhett. And I'm also interviewing Lucy Black, who is also launching a book called The Brickworks. So make sure you keep on watching because we'll be back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrival Live smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivallive.org to find out more. Arrival Live, drive sober.
I'm Eric Marchinosa, Cinema Scene in Review. Join me for a monthly movie roundup of new releases either in theaters or available to stream. See you next time in Review.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So with me on the show is Dan Miwa and Miwa. Why are you saying
yes.
Miwa? Miwa.
Yeah.
And we are talking about his book that has just come out. You're on the bestsellers list. And this is your first book?
First one. Yeah, I know. It's been a crazy journey, right? It's been 10 years in the making, right? So
yeah.
it's so funny, back 10 years ago when I started thinking about this, project, I had no idea that it was going to kind of rise to the ranks that it's at now. And we launched last week on Monday. And honestly, in our first week, we hit the bestsellers list on Amazon. We got to the hot new releases on all of my sci-fi categories. So this journey has just been crazy.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's something that's really been on my mind for a long time. And as you know too as well, people that have careers and have lives and families, it's hard to find time to really follow your dreams, right?
So and dedicate. How long have you been writing this book for?
Well, 10 years, right? So
wow.
I started writing it when I was a kid, and it took me about 3 or 4 years to write it, right? But then to actually edit it down and put into a cohesive story, that took about 4 or 5 years.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
So I had my first draft, I had all my ideas down, but writing a book is a lot like a puzzle because this is a sci-fi novel, so I had to build the world, I had to build the characters, build the social structure, build all the storyline, and then you have to kind of piece it together so it's one cohesive story.
Okay.
So it took a lot of brain power, and it was exhausting. A lot of the times too as well. I remember, what am I doing? Is this going to work? Is this going to fly? You get to those kind of stages when you're writing a story, at least in my own experience, where you feel really good one day, and then other days you feel just almost destroyed, right?
Right.
But you keep at it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you were cooking up the whole scenery, the characters, how everything interconnected, were you using a journal to draft out ideas? Were you did you have a big bulletin board on your wall and you're okay, so if this person knows this one and this planet is like this, and how did that whole thought process go?
I know it's going back a couple of years now, right? But so in my career I'm a project manager.
Okay.
And my career, I plan like you wouldn't believe, right? I've got the whiteboards, I've got all the notes, you know what I mean? I've got all the swim lanes and process charts and stuff. But in this case, maybe because it's a creative venture, a lot of the ideas just kind of came to me, right? So I remember when I was a kid, what started this whole idea was that I was sitting on my balcony in one of the condos I used to live in. I looked up in the sky and I said, wouldn't it be cool to write a story about another civilization living on another planet? And not like this like battle between humans and aliens and traditional sci-fi, but if there was another race or another civilization out there in the universe, what kind of challenges would they go through? Like how are their societies structured? And also too as well, like if our lives are so messed up and all the challenges that we face too as well, who's to say that an alien race doesn't go through the same type of challenges?
Right, exactly.
So the really cool thing about this book is that it holds a mirror to a lot of the social issues and social biases and challenges that we face in life, but it's depicted on another planet. So I had a theme, right? So at that point, it's like, okay, I have an idea. I know what the ultimate theme is going to be, right? It's going to be sci-fi related, but I want it to be like a life piece.
Okay.
So when I was going through like creating this whole story, I first started off building like the planet, right? So I had to say, okay, well, I know that my story is going to take place on another planet, and what does the planet look like? So it took me a good, probably like 2 months just to kind of conceptualize, what the planets look like, the chemical makeup. I watched BBC The Universe. There's a series that came out like back in the 90s, and it was a BBC series, and it talked about all the planets, and I watched that for like a week straight, and I took notes.
Okay.
So some of the setting too as well. There's a planet. There's a moon. There's a moon of Jupiter. I think it's Europa. Pretty sure. Anyways, there's geysers on this planet, and there's geysers on my planet.
Okay.
One of the moons of I think it's Uranus. It's called Titan. It has nitrogen oceans, right? And so does mine.
Very cool.
So I took ideas from our own solar system, right, and just kind of concocted a planet.
This planet, yeah.
And then I had to define, what do the beings look like? Like, do they look like humanoids? Are they,
Are they a certain color?
Right.
Yeah.
So I had to.
And you're not even telling me. You're like, no, you have to read the book.
You've got to buy and read it, okay, Jackie? So.
Okay.
No, and then I had to create too as well, like the social structure. Okay, well, if there is a civilization, how are their societies structured? And then I had to create a storyline, and a storyline that's like really impactful. So this storyline follows a main character, and he goes through a lot of issues, right? So in terms of he's persecuted and he's challenged with a lot of life struggles.
So we're going to get back. We're going to get back to that because I want to find out more about the life, about this character's struggles to really entice everybody.
For sure.
So we're going to be back after this break. So keep on watching. Much more to come on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
All I wanted was to see a movie. One down, please.
I can't sell downstairs tickets to you people.
How dare they? I could afford to buy the more expensive ticket. I run my own business. But they refused to take my money. They left me there all night.
On what charge?
They said I didn't pay the theater tax. But it was really about color.
Sister Desmond, appeal this conviction and your community will stand behind you.
Do you have any idea what this will do to us?
So what are you going to do?
Make it right.
Viola Desmond's case inspired Nova Scotia's civil rights movement. She was pardoned 63 years later based on the injustice of her conviction.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So I'm with Dan Miwa, who is a published author who's on the best sellers list on Amazon, and his book is also going to be featured at Blue Heron Books.
And so Pluto's been in my sign for 14 years. It's been a very, very difficult and challenging 14 years, I would say. And I only really realized this when I started to get into, I guess, astrology. This is like 5 years ago. storyline, like the main
Yes.
character.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to get across in this novel is that there's always a story behind the story.
Yeah.
Right? So the story, it does follow Rhett, and he goes through many different challenges, right? His parents are ostracized from their society, his sister rebels against the government, and all the while, he's just trying to do his best to fulfill his dream. Kind of like what I went through over the past 10 years.
We go off of our own life inspiration, right? Our life experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay, so...
But the story behind the story here is that, what I wanted to do, I had something to say.
Yeah.
And when I was writing this too as well, I spent a lot of time detailing out the world and everything else. But when it came to writing the story, it's almost like it was just coming out of me.
Nice.
Like I spent time writing it, right? But
Yeah.
like the characters, when you start writing, and this is the first book that I've written too as well, and I don't know if any authors too as well have experienced this, but when you have something, it's almost like you're just channeling it, into this medium,
Yeah.
right? So the characters took their own storyline. But what I really wanted to get across to the audience too as well is that, even though we're not set on Earth, we're not set on this planet, right? Everyone who is a living being must experience emotion,
Yeah.
right? So it's an emotional tale of overcoming your fears, dealing with challenges, experiencing life,
Yeah.
right? So the characters, what this character goes through, well, there is a time when he's left for dead, and there's also too as well a lot of challenges, with his family dynamics and with how society perceives him, because in this society they're very racist. And that's the one thing that he has to deal with. Like, he has been ostracized because he comes from a different background, right? And a lot of people, in this world and, today's culture, we see a lot of that. And it's a struggle against, overcoming fears and to push forward beyond all odds. That's the main character story. The secondary character, Terry, she's not having it at all. She's like, there's something wrong with this society, and I'm going to destroy it, or I'm going to overthrow it,
Yeah.
and things have to change.
Yeah.
Right. So there's two different perspectives here. Where I think today, in our society, in our culture, we have to take a look that not only is Rhett fulfilling his truth, but Terry, the sister character who's rebellious, she's fulfilling her truth as well.
Beautiful.
Right? So.
Did you have a healing process as you were going through the writing of this book?
And so Pluto's been in my sign for 14 years. It's been a very, very difficult and challenging 14 years,
Yeah.
I would say. And I only really realized this when I started to get into, I guess, astrology. This is like 5 years ago.
That you've gone through and what you've needed to overcome. So emotions would have come up. Even if it's just in the background within the subconscious, stuff was coming up as you were getting it out.
We've all gone through traumas. We've all gone through. We all have very difficult lives. I think it's hard pressed to say that any human being on this planet doesn't have a very difficult life. I think we put on this veneer of everything's okay, but in the background too as well, there's a lot of suffering, and suffering is just part of life, if you ask me, right? This was a way for me to get what I had and needed to say out on a page, and hopefully too as well that whoever's reading this can really reflect and really connect to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I want, as an author. It's not necessarily just read my works, but I really want someone to deeply connect to it, because it's such a life piece and it has so many great values and themes. And I've got some really early feedback since our launch last week, and the ones that have read this book have been like, Dan, I've connected with this so closely. It's an excellent read, and there's so many things we can learn. And what's great too as well about having this type of medium and having this set on another world is that it's not depicted on Earth, so everyone can kind of relate to it, because even though you may not be part of a specific group in society, it doesn't matter, because we're on a different planet. So you can connect to it in any different way.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the cover? How did you, I love the cover, by the way. Before we started, I'm like, I love the colors. You chose, it's talking to me now, just looking at it. How did you come up with that cover? We have a minute left.
So I can't take all of the credit for it.
Okay.
So we had a terrific graphic design artist who read the book. This scene is actually taken from within the storyline. I'll just show it up there too as well. The colors were just the colors of the atmosphere. It was the landscape of the city, and he worked with this really cool design. He created the entire city, and it was a digital picture that we can take different vantage points from.
Oh, cool.
So we found one vantage point, and we snapped it. We said, "That is the cover." Yeah.
Okay, so how can people get your book? They can go into Amazon.
Amazon, yeah, you
Yeah.
can search for Rhett.
Okay, they can also go to Blue Heron Books
Yes.
in Uxbridge.
Yes.
Anything else you want them to know?
We've got podcasts coming up, so we're starting this
Okay.
whole marketing push as well,
Yes.
right? Like this show too as well. So happy to be here as well. And we have a lot more coming up. So find me on Facebook.
How do they find you on Facebook?
Dan Miwa.
MIWA. Oh, we're going to have that written down there. Okay. Thank you so much, Dan. It was wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life. Stick around.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Illness doesn't have to be a life sentence. Join me each week on Health 180 with Carrie and Fenn as we talk with doctors and other experts about how to reset your life after an illness. Learn health and wellness tips, patient stories, advice, and solutions from professionals on how to be the best you. Together we are stronger. That's Health 180 with Carrie and Fenn right here on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. So I have another author. We have Lucy Black here, who has a book launch coming up, and her book is called Brickworks. Lucy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So is this your first book, your 10th book? What book is this?
This is book 4 for me.
Okay.
And it's my second historical fiction.
Okay.
And it takes place at the end of the 19th century. And it's about a brickworks.
Okay, now I think it's, for me, this is very interesting on where the inspiration came from. So you were in Caledon. Do you want to tell the story?
Absolutely. We went for a drive one afternoon to Caledon, and we were wandering around, basically, and I saw what I thought was an old woolen mill in the distance. And I said, gee, I think it's a woolen mill. Let's go see if I can get a good picture. And we hiked towards it. It's just off on the Niagara Escarpment. And I found a sign that said it was part of the Cheltenham Brickworks. And it was still owned by Brampton Brick, but it was now an abandoned site. And we picked up a piece of brick, and I noticed it was studded with little bits of straw. And we went home, and I had this great photograph, and I put the piece of brick on my desk. And that brick just spoke to me. I thought, you know, I don't know anything about brick making, but I know it was really important in Ontario at the turn of the century. We live in Port Perry. And there were 2 huge fires, 1883 and 1884, that wiped out the downtown core. And I knew Uxbridge as well had had a massive fire in 1902. And then I was remembering there was a huge fire in Toronto as well. And I thought, well, bricks were really important to all of those rebuilding efforts, but where did the technology come from? How did people know how to make bricks?
Right.
And so I started doing a little bit of casual research, and I got more and more interested. I discovered all these little small communities all around us had brickworks, and they were making bricks locally for their building projects. And then, of course, there was the huge brickworks in Toronto, Don Valley Brickworks, now renamed Evergreen. So I was poking around on the internet, and I discovered there was a National Historic Site in Saskatchewan, Claybank, Saskatchewan, called the Claybank National Historic Brick Plant. And they had rolled back their operation to pre-World War I. And it was a living history museum.
Very cool.
So one weekend we flew out to Saskatchewan for 3 days so I could learn how to make bricks.
Oh my goodness. So you have been, you have put a lot of not only passion, time, energy, research before even starting the book.
Absolutely.
Right? And now, what would you say is the genre of your book?
It's
historical.
It's historical fiction, but really it's about progressivist ideology.
How would you explain that?
Well, progressivism is the idea that anything is possible. And so you would be familiar with the Great Exhibition in London that Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, mounted in the Crystal Palace. And it was filled with science and technology, and there was just this sense that anything was possible. Okay. And so my two main characters actually end up at the Pan exhibition in Buffalo, Pan American exhibition in Buffalo, which is a replica of Prince Albert's exhibition. And like Prince Albert, they're sort of blown away by all of the science and technology, and they love it. And so both of them stay in Buffalo, and they begin to work in a steel mill where they're fabricating bridges for the railway. And they meet and embark on this adventure together.
Very cool.
But there's just this sense that anything is possible. And so these two men who are both Scottish immigrants end up, at the Pan American exhibition, and then they end up salmon fishing, essentially in the Forks of the Credit, although I call it Braymore. And they buy land and they start this brickworks and completely transform this small community.
Beautiful. So I'd like to know where people can purchase your book. Now, first of all, you have a book launch happening, which is so exciting.
Thank you, yes.
Oh, okay, so Blue Heron Bookstore, what is the date of that book launch?
October 14th from 3 to 5.
Okay.
And it's part of the Book Drunkard Festival, which Shelley Macbeth organizes, which is just an amazing literary festival. She brings in authors from all over the country.
Oh, amazing.
I know. We are so fortunate to have that facility in our community.
Well, and congratulations for the launch of your book. Congratulations on the support that you're receiving from the community, from Shelley. And make sure you check out her book. It's called The Brickworks. So we'll be back with more on Uxbridge Scugog Life.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Lovely viewers, it's your host of On the Couch, Antoine El Hashim, reminding you to tune in for every episode of Season 9 of the longest running and most loved local queer talk show on Rogers TV. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. And I'm Allison. Coming up on the next episode of The Parenting Show, we're talking about managing parental alienation during divorce.
It's a tough topic, but we've got some tips to help you navigate through it.
That's only on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. I hope you enjoy the show. Now you have 2 books on your list to get from Blue Heron Bookstore in Uxbridge or off of Amazon. I'm going to pull some cards. Oh dear, I was going to pull really one, but I did say cards, and so more cards came. So this is for the energy for this week. The first card is Seduced by Sweetness. So, finding the joy in all that you have to do, even that grunt work stuff. The energy is really ramping up. Things are moving forward. We are out of Mercury retrograde. And all those little things that you need to get done, find the sweetness within that. Even if you're washing the dishes, needing to do the floor, you're stuck in traffic, find the joy in it. Look at the weather. Look at what else is going on. Pull back to propel forward. I love that. So in this image, there's someone with like a bow and wanting to meet their mark. Make sure you take time this week to go within. Whether you meditate, whether you journal, whether you just want to slow down and breathe, it's going to be during those quiet times that you are going to get clarity. You're going to get clarity, you're going to get more focus in, so then you can meet your target with whatever projects, with whatever initiatives, or even family stuff that you need to get done. The final card is how to win the game of life. And so we have a chessboard there, and we have the dice throwing. So in order to find your strategy about moving forward within your game of life to be successful in whatever you're needing to do, you need to make choices that are from the core of who you are. Make choices from your heart. Forget about what other people are doing, what their strategies are. You don't have to, that shouldn't even come into play. It should be what it feels right for you. Always people are going to be judging us. There's always going to be that judgment. No, I think you should do this. And maybe that would be great for them. But it's what is great for you. That is going to be your best strategy to win at your own game of life, to be successful, to feel great. Overall, when the inspiration is there, move forward. Send that email, make that phone call. Trust in your own intuition. Your intuitive guidance is so vibrant right now. So keep moving forward. Trust yourself. So thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with more next week on Uxbridge Scugog Life. Bye.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Leonard Thompson, 13 years old, diabetes mellitus, 65 pounds.
Starve the child to let them live. The treatment's as cruel as the disease. It's a death sentence.
Dr. Banting, this could be it. He's the first to receive this trial. But will it save him?
It's not pure enough. So we try again. And again. And again.